Okay, so hello and welcome to an evening of poetry with me, Stefan Baciu, one of the greatest writers alive. Today we'll be reading from two poets, both modern, one still alive and kicking, one long dead now, both the greatest, some of the greatest that our country ever produced. Now, as always, I would like to start with something akin to a prayer. I'm a praying man, but this is a space for all peoples of all faiths and non-faiths, because we're here worshiping the goddess that is literature. So, is everybody in? Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The ceremony is about to begin. The entertainment for this evening is not new. You've seen this entertainment through and through. You have seen your birth, your life, your death. You may recall all the rest. Did you have a good world when you died? Enough to base a movie on? That was Jim Morrison from his spoken word album, An American Prayer. I don't know if you know this, but Jim Morrison, the frontman of The Doors, was heavily inspired by beat poetry, and he saw himself as a bit of a poet. Or he saw himself primarily as a poet, not just a bit. Now, the first poet that I'm gonna read from today is Nikita Stănescu. He is a poet that worked and produced in the second half of the 20th century in Romania. He was part of the neo-modernist school, and that means that he was a poet inspired by the modernists, but he was writing after a break in tradition in Romanian letters due to the Romanian communist regime. You see, in the late 40s and 50s and a bit of the early 60s, all of Romanian literature had to be geared towards building a new man. We had this thing called prolet cultism. I don't know if this is the correct translation, but it was basically social realism, and all the poetry had to serve the interests of the party in building a new and great socialist country. But in Ceausescu's early years, there was a bit of a thaw here in Romania, and there was a lot of freedom. We tend to look at the Iron Curtain, at what was behind the Iron Curtain, as a period of something like a dark age in letters. There was a lot of censorship, and but there was also a lot of freedom. And if you're somebody like Nikita Stănescu, who was so talented and so abstract in his poetry and so concrete, you could get around it. You see, Nikita Stănescu was a rock star. He was beloved. In his final years, when he was suffering from cirrhosis, because he was a heavy alcoholic, heavy drinker. He was drinking 2 bottles of vodka a day in the second part of his life. In the last years of his life, the Ceausescu family did everything they could to prolong his life. When he died in 1982, if I'm not mistaken, the doctors were surprised that he was still alive, because he practically didn't have any liver to speak of whatsoever. And obviously, the newspaper said that he died due to a heart condition, because they didn't want to admit that the superstar poet was a drunk. He wrote very metaphysical poetry, but he also wrote very concrete poetry. Luciana Moroianu here on Substack, she has a triptych on him. Go read that. I'm not gonna steal her thunder by discussing it here. It's really great. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read one of Stănescu's favorite poems, and I'm not gonna call him Stănescu, I'm gonna call him Nikita. He actually liked to be called Nikita. He even has a poem in which he says, "Nikita, what's up, Nikita? The angel asked me." So we'll call him Nikita. I'm gonna read probably my favorite poem by Nikita, which is titled simply A Poem. Tell me, if I caught you one day and kissed the sole of your foot, wouldn't you limp just a little afraid not to crush my kiss. Yeah, he was a charmer. He had 3 wives and God knows how many lovers. And this poem was actually a pretty well-known pickup line in the in the 80s and the 90s. And I even used it once when I was attending a writer's circle. I was very young, 18, 17 and 18 at the time. And there was this older girl, I think she was 22 or 23 at the time, which, you know, basically to me, she was like a MILF. And she was very, very beautiful lady and very cool as well. She rode a longboard, and back in the late 2000s, longboards weren't really a thing in Romania. And I was hanging with other writers, and they were all commenting on her. And I went her, and I used this pickup line on her, which was actually suggested to me by my math tutor. And he said, you know, use this, you will never fail. And I didn't fail. I got her number and went on a few dates with her. Really amazing, amazing lady. I wonder what she's doing now. And I'm not reading Nikita's poem because his birthday is tomorrow. I'm reading Nikita because my friend Emma Mihaescu, who's a young poet, a celebrated poet, she's a big fan, and it's her birthday today. So, Emma, happy birthday when you're watching this, la mulți ani. Te pupă fratele tău. And Emma, she was my classmate in high school. She was one of my first supporters as a writer. She was the one that made me believe in myself as a poet and as a writer. And I probably wouldn't be doing Substack if it weren't for Emma's influence. And one of my favorite anecdotes with Emma is I think we were in the penultimate year of high school, and she was doing a presentation, and she said something very beautiful that I always misremember. She always corrects me, but it goes something like this. With literature is that it makes everything more real, and we probably won't be as real as we will be until somebody writes a book about us. And that informs a lot of my vision if you follow my work closely on Nether Street Blues. And I'm gonna read a poem which Emma leaves titleless. She leaves them untitled, from her volume Fitiluri, which would be translated as fuses. It has not been translated. I have some translations on my Substack. I'm gonna reshare them in the chat after the live. But hopefully, you know, you guys could become paid subscribers to Luciana Moroianu and push her to translate Emma's volume. Who knows? Just putting the thought out there. So here goes a poem by one of Nikita's greatest inheritors, and she loves Nikita. I know she's going to do it tomorrow, but she actually goes to the Belu cemetery, to the cemetery where all the greats are laid to rest, and she leaves flowers on his birthday every year. So here goes. Friday at 6:45 in the Bucharest yet unwritten, line 1 is no line. It's a cursed circle. Turns into 10 before you know it, and only when it runs backwards defying math, logic, anything. Line 1 circle is tightly held by another circle, one of people wobbling on the platform. Half-eaten pretzel in hand, with a spirit brimming or spent, with a battery full or spent. Everything waits to be written. At the tax office, blank forms will be laid out. Children will hand in untouched assignments at school. The world will drink Pepsi from bottles on which nothing is written. All wait to appear, to take form from the void. In the hell of the blank page, all the letters struggle beneath the white of the eyes. This city's poet is, of course, a drunk. He'll wake up around 11 or 12, go to the supermarket, buy 4 bottles to last the weekend, grab some cabbage rolls from his mother, finally wash his long locks, which have forgotten the time he started going bald, and fight to live one more day. He'll draw from his stash and go back to bed, and in the hell of the blank page, Monday will come, God knows when. So yeah, that was Emma Mihaescu, my friend, my sister, and this is Emma at her best, but also at her truest. She writes about Bucharest. She captures the vibe of Bucharest. There's this image of half-eaten pretzel in hand. For anybody who's been to Bucharest, we know there's a lot of pretzel shops here, not pastry shops like you see in France, but little, kiosks where they sell pretzels and other pastry, but people mostly buy pretzels. It's also good fasting food. So we know the Orthodox, when we fast, we don't eat any meat or animal products. We're basically vegans. And pretzel is always something nice to go with a coffee. And there is something about waiting the tram. Line 1 is a tram. And we have a platform there in the middle of the street. And it's very, very disgusting when the weather is bleak, because the wind and the sleet and the rain are beating on your back, and you're tired and you have to go to your job or to school. Romanian school starts at 7 a.m. That's actually when we had our Romanian classes, our literature classes, with our dearly departed professor, Victor Lishman, who was a huge influence on all of us. I was just discussing him with Emma today, and I told Emma, Emma, I didn't do literature for my undergrad, and said, oh, no, you had Victor Lishman as a teacher. You basically have a master's. She's such a sweetheart. And she captures this Bucharest vibe. She has a very Dionysian poet, very Lynchian in a sense. She paints these surreal images that are also very concrete. So there's this interplay between the abstract, the metaphysical, and the concrete, something that you touch, and that's where the greatest poetry lies. And before I'm going to look to the chat, because now I have a bit of a different setup and I can't really see the chat, I'm going to read one more poem by Nikita Stănescu, and then I'm going to see what you beautiful people are saying in the chat room. So I'm going to read the second elegy from Nikita Stănescu's 11 Elegies cycle. It's, I think, his second or third volume of poetry, but he says that the elegies, the 11 elegies, are his true debut as a poet. And the second elegy is called the Jetica. And here I'm going to give you a short history lesson, just so you know what he's talking about. We Romanians, we are taught to believe that we descend from Romans, hence the name Romania, and the Dacians, or the Gets, the Daco Gets, which is basically a barbarian population that was assumed to have lived in the Romanian territory and towards modern Bulgaria. They were probably also in modern-day Albania. We don't know a lot about them. There's a lot of presumption, but we've constructed a lot of national myths based on them. And one of them is Mr. Vasile Pervan, historian from the early 20th century, which Nikita dedicates this poem a bit mockingly. And I'm going to read it. A god was put in every tree stump. If a stone split, a god was quickly brought and put there. It was enough that a bridge fell down, a god was quickly put in its place, or that a hole appeared in the highway, a god was inserted there. Oh, do not cut your hand or leg by mistake or by design. They will promptly place a god in the wound. As in every place, as everywhere, they will place a god there for us to worship, because he protects whatever disunites itself. Take care, warrior, do not lose an eye, for they will bring a god and set him in your socket. And he will stay there, petrified, and we will move our souls to praise him. And you yourself will stir your soul in praising him, as would strangers. So here, Nikita mocks myths, national myths, and there was something that even during Ceausescu's time, which I described as a bit of a thaw, a bit more liberal period, there was still a lot of propaganda, a lot of nationalism. We were told, my parents were told, and my grandparents, that they were living in the golden age. And that was basically, the regime putting gods everywhere. But this was happening, this trend was happening long before Ceausescu. Romania, like all nations, is artificial fundamentally. We constructed a lot of our myths, our heroes, but we are here. We have a language, we have poets like Emma and Nikita who make this all real. So this is coming back to what Emma was saying. Nothing is real until a book is written. So yeah, this is basically literature at its best and worst, placing gods wherever, cracks appear in the highways. Now I'm gonna check the chat and answer a few of your questions. Before anything, thank you very much for listening to me. Ooh, so going back, Luciana says that she'll donate a translation for my friend's birthday. Thank you, Luciana. I'm gonna link you guys together. You guys will definitely click. So yeah, okay. Yeah, that I can't seem to move the chat. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the 23-year-old MILF. Yeah, it was my 17-year-old perspective. Yeah, it's weird how we look at ages nowadays. I know a lot of young people. My nephew, I think he just turned 22 this year. He tells me that, Stefan, do you think that I'm too old to make something of myself? And I say, yeah, of course, you're 22, like you have all the time in the world, just do something. But yeah, when you're young, everybody looks way older, and you find yourself being 32 and still looking for the grown-up in the room. So yeah, this was it. It's quite late here, and I'm gonna keep it short. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next live. If you want to read more about Nikita, as I said, Luciana is your girl. And thank you very much for watching. Much love, Fane.